Hello, yes. So principles of programming. That's all. So the focus is actually on C++ programming. And when we talk of principles, we are talking of standards that as a programmer or someone who will intend to do computer programming, you're supposed to follow in order to ensure seamless transition that's to the programming arena. So yeah, and when we talk of programming is actually writing instructions for computers to basically understand that's the instructions that you want or the computers to basically execute. So it's basically writing a set of instructions for a computer to actually understand and execute tasks. Yeah, and that's a principle. As I said, they are basically standards. So these are standards that govern when you intend to write instructions for the computers to actually understand. Yeah, and there has been evolution of computer programming, and the evolution has been that from the binary to assembly and also to the high level language. So it can be termed as the machine code era to assembly language, and also to the high level language. And I will break down a little bit for you to basically understand what is binary, what is assembly language, and what is high level languages. Yeah, so over the years, before you can basically write instructions for the computers to actually understand, were basically writing they were writing that machine code, and the machine code is also termed as that zeros and ones. Yeah, those are actually the binaries that the binaries that the computers actually understand. So any language that you use in writing that's instructions for the computer to actually understand, they are being converted into binaries here. Yeah, so initially they were writing the binaries directly onto the computational devices for them to basically understand the kind of instructions that you are setting onto the computer hardware. Yeah, so that was the era. So we moved from the machine code or from the binary, and we headed on to the assembly. And for the assembly, you got to realize humans were finding it a bit challenging writing the machine code. So it was actually being moved from the machine code to the assembly code. And assembly code was like they were writing instructions that's using symbols. They are writing instructions using symbols. And over the years, since there was nothing like keyboard, yeah, they were basically using punch cards for that. So they were using punch cards to write lines of code, several lines of code for the computational devices to basically understand and execute. Yeah, so some of the some of the symbols were MOV. Have something like MOV AX10. So this simply means you want to give a value of 10 and store into a register. Yeah, AX, register AX. So the assembly language basically use register and memory, and the register stores temporal value, and the memory, as we know, it's kind of store data that are actually permanent, unlike the register. Yeah, so and have something like add AX10 AS10, meaning you want to add a value of 10 in addition to that's the AS or the register AS. So this is how things were actually working. Yeah, so from binary to the high level language, and today the kind of languages that we are basically using, they are actually the high language. Most of the language that we are using are basically the high level language. We have the C, we have the Fortran, we have the COBOL and the likes. These are basically the high level languages that we are actually using today. So if you check the evolution of programming, or that's the transition of programming, where we started and where we are heading towards, it tells you a lot that programming earlier on, they were trying to make sure that users are seamlessly able to write instructions for the computers to actually understand. So earlier on, few were able to write instructions for the computers to understand. So they were trying to make it user friendly for users to basically understand and write instructions. So the binary was 0, 1. That's the binary was writing machine code for the computers to understand, but few were able, because users find it very they were finding it that's very challenging writing the machine code. So it was moved from the machine code to the assembly language, which was which they were using symbols. So if you see 0, 7, 1, writing the gate for computers to understand is kind of weird, but you move from that to symbols, and you can say that for like moving from numbers to symbols, this is kind of a little bit simple than this, and we are now we actually move to a print. So you can say something like print hello. So I can say that this is a little bit this is much simple than this. So this is actually simple than the symbol, and also than the binary. So there has been that's transition, and also there has been some evolution, that from the binary to the assembly, and also to the high level languages. And I think there has been a lot of progress out there. That's in the principles of programming, and also how users actually write instructions for the computer to understand and execute tasks. Yeah. And when we talk of C++, C++ is a programming language, and it is actually the improved version of the improved version of C. So C is also a programming language, but it doesn't support that's object-oriented programming. Yeah, it's only supporting object-oriented programming. So B and Stroop, he actually developed C++ in Bell's lab in 1985. Yeah, that's when the official everything was set. 1985 in Bell's lab, 1985. Yeah, B and Stroop, he developed that. The main motive was that he wanted to add a feature of object-oriented programming to ensure that he upgraded the C. So the the plus here basically mean incremental or advanced or upgraded. Yeah, so he actually upgraded the C, and the name goes like C++. So that's what C++ what made C++ actually came about. So there has been some transition, there has been a lot of stuff along the way in C++ and some other programming languages out there. So this is how the evolution of computer programming actually came about, and where we are heading towards right now. Then we have some of the principles of programming, we have something called abstraction. ab, so abstraction, just to name a few. We have reusability. So these are some of the principles. Some of the principles. So you have just to explain. Yeah, just to make the video a little bit simple. Yeah. So abstraction is basically for you to write codes or instructions for the computer to understand, but you see, this ensures that programs or the instructions are being break down in such a way that it can be manageable. Yeah, it can be managed. That's if the instructions are kind of kind of bulky, you need to ensure that it is actually break down into modules or into several parts, so that it can actually be maintained, it can be manageable. Yeah. And when we talk of reusability, we are talking of instructions that we write for the computers to understand. We need to ensure that our instruction that we write for the computers to understand can be reused. That's when a similar project or similar work is supposed to be done. We need to ensure that our project or our instructions are structured in such a way that it can be reused, and not to write it in such a way that it will just be used once and that's all. Yeah, so that's some of the principles. There are a lot of principles out there that you can search for that. Yeah. And right after that, why do you need to learn C++? I will say it is important for you to learn C++, because C++, as a student or someone who intends to that's delve more into computer programming, or that's learn a lot in if you are someone who intends to be in the software engineering field, then to learn or want to learn computer programming, C++ is actually a good programming language for you. That it gives you the idea, it gives you the knowledge, it gives you how you can basically approach any program in the programming arena before you go ahead learning any particular programming language. Yeah, so it gives you like almost everything before you can start writing code that's for any other programming language. So it is important for you to start C++ programming. That's if you're out there and you want to intend move into the software engineering field, or like you want to be a programmer, it is important to learn C++. Get it right. Yeah. So and C++ can actually be used to we can actually use C++ to develop a lot of we can use it to develop a lot of stuff. So what are some of the things that you can basically use it for? So you can use C++ for for game development. So we can use C++ for game development, for mobile application development, mobile application development. You can use C++ for you can use C++ that for say that's if you are developing a system that requires high memory utilization and all those stuff. It is important to use C++, and yeah, it is one of the softwares. It is one of the programming languages that is good when you are working with systems that require high memory utilization, high CPU utilization, and other stuff. It's important to ensure that. Yeah, so C++ is actually a good programming language for you out there, and you need to basically ensure that, yeah. And for C++, for you to actually start using C++, you need to so for you to actually so I basically use code blocks. Yeah, so you need to install code block software if you want to start using C++. Install code block. Yeah, it's actually a software that allow you to write instructions. Yeah, so you install code block. Yeah, there's a link below this very video in the description, and you can click on that in order to download that's the code block software. Yeah, so you need to install this very software. Yeah, right after installation, you create a project, you open it, you create a project. Yeah, but if you find it cool using any other ID apart from the code block, it's fine. Yeah, so you create a project, just set a project name. Yeah, and you start. Yeah, once you start right, you get to have some instructions. Yeah, and that will be fine. Yeah, so some of the instructions that you can basically write, that's writing C++ goes like so. I'm opening C++, I'm opening my code block for you to basically see some of the codes in here that you can basically write, or the simple code that you can write using the code block. Yeah, so we have something like you have these are some of the hello. This is one of the simple or the first code that users most of the times write. That's when they intend to start the journey in programming language, but you get wow. So once you run and everything was working fine, you get to know wow. So it is just a test case. I always say this actually a test case, getting that your work is actually everything is fine. So this is yeah, my interface, and you see, yeah, I have some code here. Let me clear everything and write what we actually have in here. What we did, that's the hello world. So when you create a project, this is, I named it first project. So yeah, so when you run this hello world, you get to see that things are actually running. So this is the code block software, and this is how the interface look like. Yeah, so when you run and everything is working fine, and get to know that wow. So this hello world, and yeah, fine. Yeah, so this is actually a simple video to get you understand how the principles of programming is, how the evolution of computer programming has actually been from machine code or machine or from the binary era to the assembly, and also to the high level. Yeah, and we move on to the that's the principles of C++, the principles of computer programming. That's like specifically C++. Yeah, and it basically applies to most programming languages. Yeah, so abstraction, reusability, and and the likes. And we actually move on to the why you need to basically learn C++. Yeah, you can basically use C++ for game development, mobile application development, operating system, and the likes a lot. You can basically use for machine learning. You can or even use C++, yeah, to set up your environment in order for you to start using computer. That's for you to actually start using C++. You need to install CodeBlog, or install any ID of your choice that you think is fine. So this is actually this is actually cool. That's if you find, yeah, so this see out hello world, yeah. So thank you very much.